coach Cole Popovich also won't be with his team in 2021 in a decision related to the COVID-19 vaccine and NFL guidelines. League sources confirmed that to ESPN. The vaccine is required for all Tier 1 staff, including coaches, front office executives, equipment managers, and scouts. Players not required to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, but will face strict protocols during training camp and throughout the season that vaccinated players will be able to forego. So here's former tight end Ben Watson on the vaccine.
If a player does not want to get vaccinated, we will stand behind him 100%. Look, if an unvaccinated player causes any sort of outbreak, look, it should be the same as a vaccinated player. The reason why we are pitting teams club against club and talking about expenses is to force vaccinations. And so the NFLPA, again, is going to support and protect players, but we're also going to say, look, the science is there. We know that vaccinations have reduced infection rates. And so we feel good about this, but we still want you to make the choice for yourself.
Ben Watson, vice president of the NFLPA as well. So is Sam Wacho. Look who's here right now. Two-time Super Bowl champ with the Bucks and the Colts. That would be the one and only Booger McFarland. Boog, I'll get to you in a second. Acho, you're up first. Do you think this will divide the locker room, the vaccine and all that comes with it?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that the NFL's quote unquote, I'll put it in quotes and I'll explain why in a second, new mandates will divide the locker room, because in players' minds, it's playing with their money. I'm thinking, man, if I don't get this vaccine, I might lose out on some checks. But now here's the reality of everything. Last year, and I'm a vice president of the NFL Players Association as well, I'm on the executive committee. Last year, there was a 2-year agreement put in place in regards to COVID. And so that's what we saw last year. And last year, the percentage of players getting COVID was, I think, right under 2%. Maybe it was 0.8% if I'm not mistaken. Also, if you don't want to get the vaccine this year as a player, you can do what you did last year. You can wear your mask. You can social distance. You can wear contact tracers. You can have less than 15 guys in a workout. You can wear your mask on the sideline, in the facility, on the field. So I believe that players should have a choice. But the thing is, it's almost, people call it a false choice. You think I either get the vaccine or I don't play. That's not the reality. The reality for NFL players, which right now, about 75% of NFL players are vaccinated. The reality is, if you don't get the vaccine, if you make that choice to not get the vaccine, all you're choosing is to wear your mask. You're choosing to social distance and physical distance. You're choosing to wear contact tracers. You're choosing to get tested every day or every other day. So it's the exact same thing we saw last year when there was no vaccine and there was right around a 0.8 positivity rate. And last but not least, we talk about these outbreaks between unvaccinated versus vaccinated players. Let's not forget the outbreak that happened last year in Tennessee. It wasn't caused by a player. It was caused by coaches who weren't following those protocols. And this year, coaches are required. They're required, if you're going to be a Tier 1 staff, which is a coach, a dietitian, a strength staff, you're required to get the vaccine. And so I believe players should have that option, that choice to be able to decide. But you're not deciding on playing versus not playing. You're just deciding that you're going to wear your mask socially and physical distance, and also wear your contact tracers and get tested. That's all you're choosing.
Wow, there's so much to unpack here. I think the number one thing to say is we first need to recognize that the NFL is a private entity ran by 31 owners plus what they do up in Green Bay. Okay, so now once we realize that, those ownerships and those clubs can decide how they want to run their organization. And aside from the occasional pushback from the NFLPA, the NFL pretty much does what it wants. Okay. I think the time to tackle this issue with the vaccine and how we deal with it going forward would have been last year. Yes, there was a two-year agreement put in place, Acho. But at some point, the testing and the vaccination method should have been broached and should have been talked about. And to my knowledge, I don't know if it was, but it doesn't sound like a lot of NFL players are happy that either you A, get vaccinated, or B, you're going to have to go through hell again, which is to fly on different planes and work out outside. I mean, there's a situation in Tampa where guys who are not vaccinated, you're not even showering with everyone else. So they're going to make your life a living hell. Again, you have the choice, just as you said, Archer, you have the choice to do and mask and social distances, but they're going to make your life hell compared to your teammates and what else is going on. Now, is it going to break up the locker room? Every locker room is going to be different. Every teammate is going to react. We saw DeAndre Hopkins, his post about, he had to decide about his career whether or not to get vaccinated. I think what you have to do as an organization and what the league has to do, and hopefully the PA has done, is talk to our players and say, hey guys, yes, you can decide what you want to do when it comes to the vaccine. But this vaccine is here to help us. This vaccine is here to make sure that if and when you do get COVID, guess what? It's not catastrophic as we've seen in other situations. And I think the more players will understand that, it's basically insurance. Think about it this way. This vaccine is basically insurance to the best that you can, that if you get it, the likelihood of you not dying from it goes up astronomically. So explain to our players that this is for your benefit. This is something that we need to do. This is something that it's going to help you. I just think that the ball was dropped a long time ago when the negotiation was had between the NFL and the NFLPA about how we're going to handle COVID, how we're going to handle the vaccine, how we're going to come out of this pandemic, because it doesn't sound like the NFLPA and its players are on the same page. Because again, the NFL, this private company, is basically saying, hey, get the vaccine or we're going to make your life living hell, and you really can't do anything but choose one of those two choices.
Let's get to the crux of this, guys. You guys know this from playing in the NFL. The NFL owners will do everything they can to put this on the players, at the players' feet, because they made that decision last week saying, hey, guys, if you're not vaccinated and all of a sudden an outbreak happens and then you cost yourself a game check and then the other team's going to get a game check be cost with a forfeit. We don't want to do that. But if you guys don't want to get vaccinated, that potential is going to be there. They did everything possible as a private entity, Booger, to your point, to make sure that they were not going to be responsible when it comes to the slippery slope. Now, I don't believe it's going to divide a locker room, but I do believe this. There are going to be some serious conversations. For example, if you're playing on the offensive line and you know the person next to you is unvaccinated and you're vaccinated, but you have somebody back home that could be in a health compromised situation, all of a sudden you got to gauge, okay, how much contact am I actually going to have with this person? And you need that contact on the offensive line or playing defense. So that's why I believe where those interesting conversations are going to happen, because we're social animals when it comes to human beings. And NFL is the biggest social animal situation compared to all sports, in my opinion. We have so many different players in the locker room coming from different backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. So if these conversations are going to happen, whatever information somebody's either receiving or interpreting, that's when the conversations get really interesting, because you're right, Booger, and you're right, Sam. It is a personal choice. No one should make anybody do what they don't want to do. If I have my way, I want all players to be vaccinated because I want all of them to be safe, and I want their families to be safe. And the more vaccinations that we have there that can do that, the better it's going to be to try to eradicate this pandemic or at least slow it down. But I also know I would never tell a grown man or a grown woman what to do. And if you make that personal choice, then you got to take everything that comes with it. And that's what the NFL did, saying, hey, players, we're not going to do this. We're going to let you guys take care of it. So they've taken an uncomfortable situation and made it even potentially more uncomfortable, depending on the locker room, depending on the personnel, and depending on personal beliefs. So I don't believe it's going to divide a locker room, but there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations depending on what kind of team you have or what kind of beliefs are going to be there, no matter what kind of team is going to be in this situation.
Sam, let me ask you this, and speak for yourself, Freddie, because I'm an antisocial animal. I just want to ask you this, being a part of the NFLPA, were there ever talks potentially of the NFL mandating it to players? Was that even on the table?
Yeah, there were definitely talks. Here's the deal. If the NFL could mandate it to players, if the NFL could mandate that players get vaccinated, they would. But at this point, they don't have that opportunity or that option. They mandated that their coaches get vaccinated. They mandated that the staff get vaccinated. Anyone who works on an NFL team, if you want to be back in the building, you work for that team, you got to get vaccinated. But the players, they can't mandate that. So that's why you're seeing it's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, this public pressure to try and put pressure on players. And so, yes, you can't tell a grown man what to do. And yes, the statistics show that, yeah, vaccines work. So, like, let's let that be known. Vaccines work. But also, the players should have a choice. You talk about going through hell last year. Well, you went through hell last year. You went through a tough time putting on masks as a player, not talking about outside of the locker room. Simply inside the locker room, wearing your mask, social distancing. You did that last year. I just want the players to understand that if you choose not to get the vaccine, you'll be choosing to do that again.
But the issue that I have, Acho, is why are the players complaining? We've seen Matthew Judon, we saw DeAndre Hopkins. If the players already know this, then why are they going to social media to complain about the choices that they had last year? It seems like they got the same ones this year. Why are they complaining then?
Well, Booger, you're right. Players don't know that. And so that's the great job that the NFL has done. The NFL is putting all this new pressure. Remember the air quotes I put in, these new rules. Many of these rules aren't new, right? So sometimes things get convoluted and confused. No, the fact of the matter is the rules will be what they were last year. Now, what the NFL is proposing or purporting in so